So I would love to hear Chance talk because I don't like to hear myself talk too much. So why don't we put Chance in the hot seat for the last 5 minutes and you can pound them with questions. All right? So let's start. I'll let you, I won't force anybody to ask a question. Who would like to ask a question? All right.
When I practice with a robot, I can have a pretty consistent stroke.
Okay.
Just as soon as I get into a game, that leaves.
Right.
There, instead of there.
Okay.
How do I make the transition from the robot type practice to the game type practice?
So I don't know precisely what you're doing on the robot, but it sounds like you're doing like very systematic drills where you know where the ball's coming and you're working on your technique, and that's good to work on the technique. But if you can't use it while incorporating your footwork or while incorporating not knowing what kind of spin's coming, then it's not useful in a match. So I would say when you're practicing with your robot, do more irregular drills where you don't know where the ball's coming and you have to move, or where you don't know what spin it is all the time, where it's changing spins, and then you have to adjust, and that'll make it easier for you to transition in a match.
Our club has a RoboPong.
Okay.
Just a single head, but we've got it, and you can adjust it to different settings. Of course, you can see the head move.
Right.
Should you be watching the head? Would that be like watching a paddle?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I actually have a new product out. It's a paddle that sticks to the robot's head. It's got a hole cut out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has Velcro. Just
so you're really not cheating if you watch that.
No, and basically you just watch the racket go back and forth, just so you can actually simulate watching a racket.
Yeah, because when you're playing with a person, you're watching their paddle and their body language and what they're doing. So, I mean, the robot head is what you're playing against. So, I mean, obviously, you're gonna wanna be looking at that to see what's happening.
It's not cheating. It's just like you win the game.
Exactly.
If I were to say like I don't want to look at my opponent because I'm not cheating, that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe 2 or 3 more questions. Thomas, I know you got a good one.
I don't have any questions.
Oh.
I do play against somebody who has that same problem. Like he's extremely good at a certain shot, but if I vary just slightly,
Yeah.
he just chokes, you know, and then he gets angry because he's trained like
It becomes
6 hours a week on those shots.
It becomes too robotic and too stationary. You need to add a factor of irregularity in order to make it more match-like. And that's the same way when you're doing exercises with a person. It's not just with a robot. So if you do the same exercise every day, say you're playing 2 backhands, 2 forehands every day, and after a few weeks or after a few months you feel really good, and like, I've improved a lot, I feel really good when I'm playing, and then you go play a match and it's like the ball's coming everywhere in all different spins. Well, you weren't training for that. So as you progress in a drill, you should really be trying to up the factor of match-like situations. So you can start the drill with a serve, you can make the drill like semi-systematic where you don't always know where it's going, where one ball to one location and one ball to like a variable location, one ball to one location, one ball to a variable location, or like within a certain area but random. So you can make your drills and your practice very match-like in that way.
Sure.
Good. Scott, you got one?
Is there a way, technique, or something that you can do that will help you focus on the person's paddle, body language, their movements? Because what we've always had trouble with, it seems like we're like really, trying to do that, and then the next thing you know, it's like you defocus and you lose sight of it. I mean, it's so hard to keep, like if you're not doing it like all the time, it's really difficult to watch the person's paddle and to move the right way, and like you're trying to think of other things at the same time. So is there like some way to focus only on that part of the game?
So when I was younger, I had a hard time, and for me, the biggest factor was that I wasn't taking enough time in between points and I was rushing back and trying to win quickly. And so when I started taking more time in between points and thinking about what just happened and going back and focusing on the opponent and focusing on what's going on, then I did a lot better job. If you're not taking any time to like refocus in between points, then like you said, you lose focus and it just kind of gets sloppy. So you need to take your say whatever, 15 seconds in between points. Bounce the ball a couple times, walk to get the ball, don't run, you know. You have time in between points to refocus and rethink what just happened, what's about to happen. Look at your opponent, you know, look at their body language.
Yeah, and I think it's important not to focus on like too many things at one time. Like if you're doing a drill, let's say you're looping to Zane's backhand and he's blocking random, it's okay just to have a theme of one thing for 10 minutes, just to watch his racket. You can have a note card, you can just go over between points and just ask yourself the question. Or you can verbalize it out loud to Zane. Like my students absolutely hate it when I do that, but I have them verbalize before every point what their theme is. And just say, okay, Zane, my focus for this point is going to be to watch your racket and move my feet according to what I see. You might sound like a broken record after 10 minutes saying the same thing, but at least Zane can keep you accountable that at least you're thinking about that before every point.
I think especially like if something in your game isn't that strong and you're trying to work on it, it's hard to work on that while working on everything else too. So really focusing in on while you're practicing and not playing matches, have 1 or 2 focuses for each exercise and say, okay, this exercise I'm focusing on watching my opponent's body language and how they have the paddle and where the ball's coming because of that. Or maybe look at your feet, and I really want to make sure that I'm getting into good position for all of these balls, and that's your focus, not worrying about how hard you're playing or how much spin, just focusing on the footwork and getting into position, things like that.
Because we know that you have to work on tons and tons and tons of things, but trying to focus on 10 different things during an exercise, you'll probably get none of them right. So at least if you say, hey, I got a small success in this 10 minutes doing this right, I think you at least have to say, let's make small progress.
Yeah.
A lot of people try to tackle too many things at one time and then don't end up perfecting anything.
As you practice your drills and you focus on 1 or 2 things, they'll get better, and as many things get better as you practice them 1 at a time or 2 at a time, then you can start mixing it in together and say, okay, this time I'm working on like this combination of things, but first you need to really strengthen it individually before you get to that point where you can kind of mesh everything together.
And we're trying to give you guys a lot of